Oh. Read this level. Can you read this? I haven't seen these. We don't care.
Yeah, it's
Okey doke.
it's download. Also, I just got a traditional.
Good afternoon, everyone. If you would join us, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Wonderful, thank you. Ms. Cameron, let's see who's here.
Trevor Davis. Here. Cortez.
Present.
Bowman.
Here.
Floyd.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Rogers. Here. And Mayor Johnson.
Yes, ma'am. Are there any additions or removals from the agenda?
Move to approve.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Thank you, sir. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Moving on. I just went out there and shooed them inside, and now we're going to take a moment and call them up. But we are honored this afternoon, to have the advanced jazz band from Battleground High School, who took a tour out to, is it Kansas City, Kansas, or Kansas City, Missouri? Both. You went across both. Oh, there you go. And did exceptionally well. So who is speaking for you this evening? Yes, ma'am, please. The podium is yours. Well, just what? Why don't you just tell us what happened?
My name is Sherry Cloak. I'm the vice president of the Battleground High School Band Boosters. And our kids entered to go to two different festivals. One was Ellington, which is in New York, and Kansas City. And we got invited to go to Kansas City. We had amazing community support. We basically had about a month to come up with a whole lot of money. We raised $24,000 in a month's time. So yeah, it was really exciting. The kids worked really, really hard. We left on a Tuesday night and came home on a Saturday, but we saw some really great things. I think the kids really enjoyed it, and a lot of great learning experience. We went to a factory that made some brass instruments that was kind of added on by one of our moms last minute. And yeah, and just so you know, the draft was in town. When we were there, it was the joke. Everybody kept saying, "Did you know the draft's in town? Are you here for the draft?" We're like, "No, we're here for a jazz festival." But yeah, it was, so it's a joke, but we had a really amazing time and really great support from the community and the Battleground School District. And it was just a really, really great time.
And how many of you were there?
There were 24 kids, and with chaperones and our great band director, there was 32 of us that went.
And the competition started on?
We competed Wednesday and Thursday. The actual competition was on Thursday. So after a very late night getting to the hotel, the kids played on Wednesday, had really amazing comments from the judges. And they actually, Greg knows more about the scores, but one of the judges said he had never given 100, and our band got 100. And when we were playing on Thursday, I listened to all the bands and I was kind of like, oh, okay, we're up against some really good bands. And the band before us, actually, their last song, they played The Heat Is On, which is the song we ended in. And when they played that song and then we played it, I was like, okay, maybe we have a chance at this. And I'm not saying we were better than them, but it was amazing. Like, our band brings that song on. I wish they could have played for you, but
the Glenn Fry tune? The Heat Is On?
Yeah.
The Glenn Fry tune?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Dallin Goodwin, who is not here, we had, he's our upright bass player in the rhythm section. He actually won overall best musician for the rhythm section, which was really awesome. Yeah, it was great.
Since we're here and we don't care about the others, how many schools did you smoke?
A lot. In our category, which was the top category for our division, there were 6 schools in just that category. Yeah, it was a great experience. A lot of work, but it was a really amazing experience.
Now, looking over the band members you have, who's willing to come up and tell us their side of the tale? Come on. Oh, here he is. Step on up.
This is Aries.
Pleasure to have you, sir.
I was
gonna
say Claire.
Oh, well, come on. Well, others three, well, please, the floor is yours.
I'm Aries Turner. I'm the guitarist in our jazz band, and the opportunity to go down to Kansas and perform at this competition was phenomenal. I remember sitting in the intermediate jazz band my freshman year, looking up at the advanced jazz band. I think they were going to New York that year or something. And I was like, wow, they are good. I want to be that good that day. And then it was kind of like on the flight out to Kansas, I was like, I am that band. It's like, I made it. And I'm focused on a career in music, going through music education through college. And so I'm hoping to keep climbing that ladder. This was definitely a step in the right direction. It just felt amazing and boosted everybody's confidence in the band. It was one of the biggest opportunities I've gotten in all of my school.
And what grade are you in currently?
I'm a senior.
You're on your way next week?
I am on my way next week.
And where are you on your way in the fall? Are you on your way to the fall anywhere?
I am on my way to Central Washington University,
And in a music degree or
music education.
music education? It is a pleasure to have you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Yes, ma'am, it's your turn. And your name is?
So I am Claire Moss. I'm the bari sax and the vocalist for the jazz band. Winning that, like Aries said, when I was a freshman, I actually got a chance to sit in and sub in for the bari player who was a senior. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is some of the hardest music I've ever played. I don't think I can do this. And then I got in the next year, and then I got in this year. And I was like, when I went to Kansas, I was like, wow. When I was a freshman, I couldn't even dream of going this far in jazz. And winning any festival is exhilarating, but winning a festival of that magnitude is amazing.
So where are you in the high school realm?
I am a junior.
You're a junior, so we'll
Yes.
see you next year.
Oh yeah, you'll see
When
me
you
next
go
year.
to wherever it may be and smoke those people.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, we look forward to seeing you then.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming. Pleasure to have you. Oh, my. Your name, please, madam.
My name's Kaya Wood. I'm a tenor sax player. And I played jazz for 2 years in my middle school. And I kind of fell out of it for a little bit, but then coming back this year and getting to have so many experiences with this jazz band is just amazing. And like, I always heard about our advanced jazz band and how amazing they were, like these last two people just said. And like, it felt so surreal to be a part of that group. Like, it didn't feel real at all. Like, it hit me on the plane on the way home. It's just like, whoa, like we were those people. And we all of our work that we put in over the last few months, it was so rewarding to see that payout and see that reward. It was amazing.
And where do you fall on the high school spectrum?
I'm a senior.
You're a senior. So
Yes.
Next week you're on your way?
Yep.
And in the fall?
I'm going to Denver,
Denver.
Colorado. Yes.
To,
I'm studying film, but I hope that I can still have a little bit of a realm in music.
maybe you can join in with some.
Yes, absolutely.
And it too is a pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm kind of ashamed that I didn't bring my accordion and have you tell me how I do. My wife tells me how I do, so it's probably best that I didn't. And Greg, I did see you outside, sir. If you would please stand. You have been with the Battleground High School for how long? 27 years. And how many of these events have you captured? Good for you. Good for you.
Wow.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say I saw that you all received an invitation to perform, and then I saw the fundraising efforts. So I was really invested in this competition. So I'm very pleased to see that you guys did so successfully. And I appreciate you coming here to tell us about your experience. So thank you.
So let me do my part on behalf of the city, and then we'll take a moment and bring all of you up. We'll shoot some pictures. You make us look good. And at that point, we'll step aside. And if your parents are here, or if anyone wants to shoot a picture of the group as a whole, we'll take the time to do that. So let me do my part. To the Battleground High School Advanced Jazz Band, presented on this 5th day of June, 2023. Congratulations on your first place win at the 2023 Basie Jazz Heritage Competition during the Kansas City Jazz Summit. Your achievement is a shining example of teamwork and dedication. And to quote Pele here, success is no accident. It is hard work, perseverance, learning, studying, and most of all, love of what you're doing or learning to do. On behalf of the Battleground residents, we extend our heartfelt congratulations for a job well done. Your collective accomplishment represents the excellence of the Battleground High School music program and endows the community with a sense of pride in each of you. Once again, let me congratulate you on this well-deserved victory. So if the band members will come on up. I'm a little older, so I've come to my older age, so we'll see where I can fit in so we can all see. And then please step on up and run the symbol here, and we'll figure out where we all fall in. Come on up, Craig. Yes, sir. You should be in the back, sir. And I'm not gonna stand next to you. Come on in, we'll fit in wherever we're gonna get in. And then tell us how to. Put this way. Are we all within? Okay, get closer like you like each other. Cities will wait on your parents and everyone else, and we'll step aside. Please come forward if you wish. Yeah, don't worry.
And for everybody, always look at Krista. That was not.
Let us know. We'll step aside and then we'll shoot the band. Please, the band. Not shoot the band. We'll figure it when you say that. We're doing it now. Everyone happy? Oh, good. Not everyone's happy. Think so now. Thanks again. See you. Where you going?
Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
Long way back. Well, you can't beat having the band and striking up the band. Moving on, there is a proclamation this evening. On the 28th of June, 1969, the Stonewall Uprising set in motion the development of the gay rights movement across the United States. And whereas the month of June is generally recognized as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer Pride Month, remembering the Stonewall Uprising and the rights and basic protections that have been attained for LGBTQ individuals. Whereas the city of Battle Ground has a continually growing LGBTQ community supported, celebrated, and affirmed by inclusive organizations, businesses, community members. And whereas while there has been significant progress for equality, Pride Month is a stance against discrimination and violence towards individuals who identify as LGBTQ, and an acknowledgement that there is still work to be done to promote inclusion in equal rights. Whereas Battle Ground celebrates the diversity and the immeasurable contributions of our LGBTQ community and recognizes that diversity is one of the city's greatest strengths. And whereas it is essential that we work together to make all residents of our community feel valued, safe, accepted, included by increasing visibility, building community, and respecting all sexual orientations, gender expressions, and gender identities. Therefore, I, Philip Johnson, Mayor of the City of Battle Ground, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the laws of Battle Ground in Washington, do hereby proclaim June 2023 as Pride Month in the city. Who's here to accept this? Please. Please take a moment, tell us what's going on, and then
Okay,
appreciate you coming.
thank you. Hello, Battle Ground Mayor and City Council. My name is Jessica Cole and my pronouns are she, her. I'm the president of PFLAG Southwest Washington. We work to create a caring, just, and affirming world for LGBTQ plus people and those who love them. I'm a resident and I have progeny, children, who are transgender. Thank you very much for issuing a proclamation stating your commitment to the rights of the LGBTQ community. They are deserving of dignity, respect, and support. Progress has been made in the fight for justice, inclusion, and equality for LGBTQ plus rights. Still, more work must be done, especially for more vulnerable folks, such as people who are transgender, people of color, low income, youth, disabled, and elderly. I am so grateful for all the LGBTQ plus folks who have and continue to contribute, making Battle Ground a great and diverse city. Whatever their contributions, every person has inherent worth. As my shirt says, we are all human. I appreciate the allies in schools, the library, businesses, organizations, places of worship, and throughout the city who support folks in the LGBTQ community. And I know our school district covers more than just our city. We're the biggest school district in the county, 40%. And so this covers kind of more than Battle Ground. And that's where I first met Troy. I first started supporting the LGBTQ community because of George Michael. And we all have, most of us probably have someone famous that's LGBTQ that we click with. And that helped me become an ally mom, especially when I came from the faith community. I encourage all of us to continue to educate ourselves on issues relevant to the LGBTQ plus community. If you don't know where to start, I would recommend the Trevor Project. And the reason why we need to continue educating ourselves is because we want our LGBTQ community, especially our youth, to graduate from school and thrive and survive. And unfortunately, in our school district, Brush Prairie, we had a transgender teenage girl murdered in 2019, Nikki Kuhnhausen. And I know we don't want that to happen again. Diversity makes us stronger. Battle Ground is a place where everyone belongs. Our third annual Battle Ground Pride is on Saturday, July 29th. Due to COVID, the first two were online, so this year's event will be in person for the very first time. And I'm grateful for all the folks who showed up tonight in person and all the people online. And I invite you all to come meet up with us tonight at Northwood Public House and Brewery to celebrate this special event. And this is an extremely happy Pride for me. Thank you very much. And this is Lisa Edwards that was going to say a few words too.
Lisa Edwards. I've lived up here for now just over 12 years. I provide spiritual guidance support, especially for the LGBTQ community, especially those who have been marginalized in so many ways. And a lot of people in this room can appreciate what it's like to not be included, to be dismissed, and how that impacts our mental health and consequently our physical health. So it's a great work. It's a joyful opportunity to be acknowledged, and just to let you know that there's a lot of gratitude and community for this acknowledgement. So thank you.
Can we look forward to that tune on the accordion then?
Yeah. You'll be wanting to go back when I bring out the agenda. Yeah, it'll be waking you up before you go. Moving on to presentations, we are honored this evening to have the 18th district legislators here, plus a spare from the 17th, I see. And we're always grateful to have him, but pleasure, sir, Mr. Harris. And so I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Bowman, and Mr. Bowman is going to take care of it from there. Please, sir.
Thank you. If we can have our three legislators come up, Senator Rivers and Representative McClintock and Cheney. This last year was quite a session, I hear. I've heard it a couple times from multiple people. And as someone that sits on the legislative committee and has been to Olympia a lot, I want to first thank you guys for the work that you did for the city. We are the best city in your district. We are the only city in your district, so we qualify as the best and only. And I don't know if there's too many districts in this state that are represented like this. And so as a city, we get, I guess, better treatment when we don't have to compete against other cities. And so we've appreciated that this year. We had two freshmen in both of our representatives this year. And it was great to see you guys grow. I hope you didn't get discouraged. Hope you run again next year. But we do appreciate what you guys brought back to the city of Battle Ground. City of Battle Ground every year gives about $43 million to the state in sales tax revenue. That's just sales tax revenue. One of the different many forms that go to the state, gas tax, those type of things. Our job as council members is to reach out to our legislators and let them know some of the projects that we're working on that we could use some help on, either financially or through regulations, or killing certain regulations to help us out. And this year they did a phenomenal job. And we brought back roughly a little over $2.5 million is what our legislators brought back to the city of Battle Ground to help our community. Getting old, sorry. We got three projects they helped us out on. The first project was the Eaton Boulevard Improvement Project. That was $1 million they brought back. That money is going to be used to help expand Eaton Boulevard between Southwest 20th Avenue and SR 503. That'll have center turn lanes, bike lanes, sidewalks, traffic signals at the intersection of Southwest 20th and Eaton Boulevard. That's kind of a you travel in the city much, you know about Southwest 20th and Eaton Boulevard. So that's an important intersection for us and needs to be, has been at county standards since Lewis and Clark came through here. And
I was a kid.
since you were a kid, yeah. And so we're trying to bring it up to some standards in the city and help out there. The second project, which they brought 1.288 million for, was the reservoir capacity and seismic improvement project. This is for our water infrastructure. We have reservoirs up on Tukes Mountain, and we need more capacity. We also need, we do live in a earthquake zone. Luckily, I think the last one hit Olympia 10 years ago or so. And so we are needing to upgrade that. That will be used along with 4 million in ARPA funds that we received to help with our capacity issues up there and build an additional 1.5 million gallons in storage capacity, which will take us out for another 20 years. The last one, which is one that in 12 years on council has been brought up a lot, and that's the revitalization of downtown. We got a great downtown corridor. If you get the opportunity to drive through here very often, it can get very congested, and what's going on down there and trying to figure out how we're going to revitalize that, keep the businesses that are there, expand the businesses, add parking, infrastructure. And we received $375,000 from the state to complete planning in the environmental phase of this project. This, as someone that saw what Camas did with their downtown corridor in the late 1990s, early 2000s, and what they did with that downtown area, it's become very vibrant. And I know we've had a lot of discussion in the city. One of our largest employers is down there in that area, and what that's going to look like. So this will be able to bring money to start the planning phase of that so that we can start to work towards having a revitalized downtown corridor. So on behalf of council, we'd like to thank you for your hard work. We appreciate it. You've set the bar. We hope next year that, no, we're kidding. We know we don't get it every year, but as your only city, we should. My only child gets whatever they want, right? So that's the way it should be with us. But no, we do appreciate you guys. We appreciate the hard work you put in. We appreciate you working with our lobbyists that have kept in touch with you and working with our staff. We appreciate our staff that have worked hard to make sure that we're ready for these projects. And so keep up the good work. And we would love to, as the mayor would say, we'd love to get some photos with you guys so that I know that's important.
Let's take a moment to hear from you.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we'd like to hear from you.
Let's hear from you first, and
Then we'll have photos.
well, I will say it's a winning combination for us to appear with a high school jazz band that just kicked butt in the Midwest. We'll let the audience decide who's the winner with pictures with us and pictures with you.
Yeah.
So we'll let the audience make that decision. But please, Ms. Rivers, please.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. It is such an honor to be here with you this evening, especially on this side of the audience instead of being up there. I just would like to point something out. While you heap praise upon us, really, we could not do our job, but for the relationships that we have with you all. I remember all of you, except you, but you're welcome, coming to my office and telling me exactly what the city needed, and then committing to me that if I delivered, you wouldn't leave my side. And to your word, you never did. It is such an honor to have a partnership like that. And truly, it only benefits the constituency that we jointly represent. So I extend my gratitude to you and just encourage you to maintain these relationships with us, because it's impossible for us to know everything that's happening, everything you need. But by being close with us and making sure we always know It makes us more effective for the community. And just so you know, Battleground's always been my number one, even before they were my only city. So I thank you so much for the honor, but I really wish to reflect that back at you. You all deserve it too. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McClintock, please.
Yeah, I just want to second that. I really, as a freshman legislature, I think what I appreciate the most is the open communication. Many times I've spoken with your mayor, and Shane and Troy, and about some different issues. I know Cherish and Adrian, we've spoken as well. Trish, I look forward to meeting you and getting to know you. But most importantly, we can't do these things and get these things for your city, for our city, if there's not communication there. So, you know, when you're up there and it's new and you're trying to make things work, it seems to, you know, everything works better when you have got a willing partner that you can work with and know how to help someone. So, you know, the success that's been brought back to Battleground is really thanks to you. So I was just we were just a tool to get that done for you. So I am happy to get that done. And there's no way we're going to outdo the kids. The kids are number one. They're the best. Troy and I, former Battleground school board members, so we know that the kids in our schools will far outdo any of us any day. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Mr. Cheney, I will remind you, sir, this is city council chambers. You normally show up here for court.
I thought I got a filibuster.
Don't have me gavel you down. I will call you out of order.
Stephanie and I learned how to filibuster this session. No.
Oh, okay.
I just say thank you for the great communication. Communication is critical. Thank you all for that. Thank you to Aaron as well. We can't do what we do without the great communication from all of you. It's so important what we do. And I just felt as a freshman legislature that we knew what was going on. We knew what Battleground needed. We knew when all of you were adjusting something, or there was maybe a slight tweak to the plan. Thank you for letting us know in advance so that we can help deliver for all of you. It's so beneficial and rewarding, and appreciated the good communication that we have with the city. So thank you all. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Just one more thing real quick, Representative Harris, if you'll stand. So we can recognize it's not always done. It takes more than just R3 to be able to get this stuff through. And I know they leaned on you probably quite a bit as someone that's a little more senior in when it comes to legislative process. And so we appreciate the help that Southwest Washington has put in for the city of Battleground. So
Well,
let's take some pictures.
let's warm up those Brownie cameras at my age. And yeah, Ms. McClintock doesn't know what a Brownie camera is. Well, you come up and give us a measure of wake me up and it's time to go or whatever it is.
I know. We could
Like here. Where are you? Maybe at this point, we can get our hand in your pocket. If you're in front of us. Anyone else? Okay, Ms. Erdman, I believe it's your turn.
Thank you,
Or
Mayor
is it my,
Johnson.
no, it's your turn.
It's my turn. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Hersig to do a new employee introduction.
Evening, council. Today I'm going to introduce Brandon Getty. He's our new maintenance worker in sewer. Brandon was born in Vancouver and lived there till the age of 6 when he moved to Battleground and has lived in Battleground ever since. Previous work experience includes machine operator. When he's not working, he enjoys hunting, fishing, and the outdoors. He's got a wife and 2 teenage boys. His wife works for Battleground Public Schools, and his kids are 12th grade and 8th grade.
Mr. Getty, please, the microphone is yours, sir.
Well, he pretty much summed it up. That's,
He's pretty good at that.
yeah,
He's done
I've
it
been told
before.
He's good at it. So yeah, I mean, he pretty much summed that up and looking forward to serving the community and doing my part and
Well, sir, it is a pleasure to have you. We wish you nothing but the best, and we wish you a long career with us here in Battleground.
all right, thank you.
Thanks again.
All right, next up, we have the Clark County Commission on Aging to give a presentation this evening. With us tonight is Jenna Kay and Commissioner Mel Sanchez. So I will turn it over to them and bring up your presentation.
Always a pleasure to have you. I have been to a few of your meetings, and I'm grateful that you've come to ours. Oh, I know.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Jenna Kay, and I work for Clark County in the Community Planning Department, and I also provide staff support to the Commission on Aging. And joining me this evening is Commission on Aging member Mel Sanchez. Oh, yes.
Which way does she aim it?
I think this one's in a PDF, so I'll have to scroll down. So just let me know.
Okay.
Just let her know.
Got it. It's been a very busy year for the Commission on Aging, and we are so pleased to be able to share a brief update with you about the past year's work. So we'll start with some background information, review the Commission's work from 2022, provide an update on progress, both implementing the Aging Readiness Plan and updating the plan itself, and end with a look ahead at our plans for 2023. We plan to leave plenty of time for discussion after the presentation if you have any questions. Next slide.
Uh-oh. Why is it blank?
Ruh-roh.
It's giving me an error. Let me close that and open it again.
I'll keep talking while we
Just
work on the
keep
visual.
going.
Okay. So Clark County, as everywhere in the country, is anticipating a huge surge in the number of residents 60 or better. In 2 years, so 2025, one in 4 Clark County residents will be 60 or older. And by 2045, nearly 1 in 3 Clark County residents will be over the age of 60. With the knowledge of this change coming our way, in 2012, the then Board of County Commissioners approved the Aging Readiness Plan and appointed a 9-member Commission on Aging. The commission's charge is to provide leadership in addressing the special needs of the aging population, to manage and assist with the implementation of the county's Aging Readiness Plan, and to update the plan as needs change. Next slide. The existing Aging Readiness Plan was developed by a task force of 24 members with significant public input. It has 5 chapters that cover the topics listed in the image here: housing, community engagement, supportive services, healthy communities, and transportation. Each chapter includes strategies to improve the community for older adults in each area. As a result of lessons learned from the pandemic, the Commission will be adding a 6th chapter that addresses health and safety. And we'll talk about this new chapter in more detail later in our presentation. Since 2012, the Commission has focused on these topical areas and created annual reports with findings and recommendations for implementing the plan. Next slide. In 2022, the Commission reached 2 important milestones. It marked the Commission's 10-year anniversary in Clark County and signaled that it was time to update the original Aging Readiness Plan document, which has not been updated since its creation in 2012. As Commission members reflected on this significant moment in history and the prolonged isolation of the pandemic, the group decided to focus its 2022 work on innovation through connection, confronting the question of how can the commission help service providers, medical personnel, and community organizations develop innovative outreach and communication strategies that can mobilize families, friends, neighbors, and faith communities to provide interconnected, knowledgeable support about programs and services for aging adults in Clark County. Next slide. In late 2021 and early 2022, the commission conducted a community member survey. A copy of the survey is included in their annual report starting on page 27. And the survey helped commission members solidify their plans for the innovation through connection topic, identify guest speakers to invite to meetings, and contributed to end of year findings and recommendations. Next slide. The commission organized moderated fireside chat conversations with guest experts listed on this slide by topic to help the group dive deeper into understanding various aspects of the innovation through connection focus area. Next slide. The commission's key findings from the year begin on page 13 of their annual report. And while there are too many to discuss today, we'll highlight a few of them. First, community service providers pivoted and offered more services during the pandemic, and yet continued to experience gaps reaching more older adults in the community. Second, there is a high demand for volunteers to help community organizations deepen their connection and offerings to community members. And three, unpaid family, friends, faith community members, and neighbors are an essential part of the local support network, both as connectors and service providers. Next slide. Number 4, although family, friends, and faith community members provided critical caregiving roles, the healthcare system and community often do not sufficiently take care of the needs of the caregivers themselves, which can lead to issues like burnout, distress, and depression. And 5, growing demand for professional caregivers with geriatric expertise is a gap in available resources in Clark County. And now I'm going to pass the presentation over to Commission Member Mel Sanchez.
Thank you, Jenna. Jenna mentioned that we have speakers, and at our last meeting, Mayor Johnson was there and gave a fine speech. Our recommendations begin on page 18 of our annual report. In years past, we have often developed some recommendations for council considerations. However, this year, our recommendations are directed toward ourselves and our 2023 work, and will ultimately be shared back to you in the updated Aging Readiness Plan. For instance, we recommend considering the following questions in the Aging Readiness Plan update project. To begin with, how can the commission and other community organizations better support the area agency on aging as the go-to one-stop shop for aging information and resources? Wow, that's a lot. How can the Aging Readiness Plan better address the needs of unpaid family, friends, and faith caregivers? And then, how can the Aging Readiness Plan better address the professional caregiver shortage in the county? And then, how can the Aging Readiness Plan better support community organizations, remove communications barriers to access their programs, such as someone who speaks a language other than English? Again, how can the Aging Readiness Plan support the innovative solutions community organizations developed during the pandemic, with particular focus on number 1, revising policies or laws to allow the programs or adaptations to continue, and number 2, identification of sustainable funding sources to replace time-sensitive emergency funding. In 2023, oh, I haven't been telling you.
I've got you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, she's moving along with you. She's moving along with you.
Okay, I'm a newbie on those.
That's okay. We've got your back.
Thank you. In 2023, the Commission on Aging should, number 1, implement intentional, strategic, and active communication and community engagement throughout the year related to the Aging Readiness Plan update project and implementation of plan strategies. And number two, use its role as the convener facilitator to move forward Aging Readiness Plan strategies during the second half of 2023. Okay, go ahead. Beginning on page 23 of our annual report, we describe progress made in 2022 related to the implementation of existing aging readiness plan strategies by local jurisdictions and community organizations across the country. To highlight a few items from this report section, the first shared housing program launched in the county. Also, the county and several cities made progress working to update housing code to remove barriers to creating a wider range of housing options in the county. And I think you folks have been working on that or have worked on it. For instance, the Vancouver City Council adopted code changes, making it easier to build small dwellings like accessory dwelling units and cottage clusters. City staff are also working on a way to expedite building permits for homes that have aging in place features. Other new programs launched in the county, such as the Meals on Wheels Safe Home for Seniors program to help with small yard or home projects. The commission continued its education awareness and advocacy work through community presentations, serving as liaisons with other groups with intersecting work, highlighting existing county programs and learning about programs that exist elsewhere as part of our commission meetings. And finally, a few years ago, the commission initiated the Silver Citizen Award to annually recognize an older adult who's having a tremendous impact in the county. This year's recipient was Caitlin Smith, who does amazing volunteer work in the community, especially with the fish food pantry, providing a wonderful example of the impact older adults have on our lives. Next. We mentioned that we are working to update the Aging Readiness Plan. The update will include the addition of a new health and safety chapter to the Aging Readiness Plan, focusing on emergency preparedness, a topic that is not currently covered. This will include discussion of natural and man-made hazards and some lessons we've learned from the COVID-19 pandemic. Additional details about implementation of the plan are planned for inclusion, so progress can be monitored more easily. The county is not the only entity responsible for implementation of the plan, so the updates will more clearly identify groups that implement the 91 strategies, and I hope the city of Battle Ground will be part of that. There is also a significant amount of new information that needs to be incorporated. The update will refresh the plan to address changes in the last 10 years, update the data and maps in the document, and ensure new technologies and services are incorporated. Some examples of changes that have occurred in housing and transportation include increased popularity of accessory dwelling units, tiny houses, and other housing options for older adults, and the use of services like rideshare apps that can provide alternate transportation options for adults. This timeline, next slide. Okay, there we go. This timeline shows the major milestones for the project. To date, outreach activities have included stakeholders interview, focus group meetings with local service providers, and public workshops on the strategy ideas. Right now, the draft plan is in the works. A final plan is anticipated in late summer or early fall, and we look forward to sharing the plan and city-related strategies with you in the future. Last slide. We're going to stop there. Thank you for listening. We would like to open the discussion and answer any questions you have for us or our discussed topics of interest to you.
Any questions for Mr. Sanchez and Jenna? Well, let me say then, on the Ides of March, you were here, you came to the North County looking for folks to give you ideas, older folks, to give you ideas on how to make their life just a little bit more bearable, if you will. There was a good sized crowd that day, and we appreciate you coming. In May, you were gracious enough to invite me down to your meeting, and I do appreciate the invitation. Let me say, though, that you had mentioned that 1 in 4 of us are over the age, will be over the age of 60 or are over the age of 60 in the coming years. And just looking around the room, as odd as it may seem, I don't see anyone in that category. So we're all very young at heart here. And so it has been a pleasure. We have been working with you guys for years.
Thank you.
And I know that the future holds quite a bit for you and for us, and hopefully somewhere along the line we can mesh and develop some ideas that you guys have that would make our folks' lives a little easier here in the city. So again, thanks for coming. It's always a pleasure to have you, and I'll see you at another meeting, I'm sure, sometime in the late summer, early fall.
I'm sure we'll.
And we'll see you, I'm sure, sometime at a coming meeting as well. And we'll be glad to, if you'd like, we can set up a little training, if you'd like, for our how to get the the slides together. Be glad to do that. You know, we're very easy to get along.
Okay, I agree with that. We need to get along.
Thank you again for coming.
Thank you.
Yes, it was a pleasure. Moving on, it looks like Mr. Fontenette, I saw you here, sir. Please come on forward. Always a pleasure to have you, sir.
Do I need to state my name or anything, or
Well, we
on record?
I think we're good.
Okay.
Does he have a PDF or does he need the?
I think we should have a.
Got a PowerPoint, so you
Okay.
can use the remote, or I can advance.
Oh,
for
we
you.
took the remote back, but she'll bring it. Miss Cameron will bring it back.
I actually get
Oh, yeah.
with the remote.
Yeah, we're very trusting people.
Point it towards this computer.
You know, how about if I just give you this, Aaron? You with one arm is gonna be better than two.
100%.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. Good
Thank you.
evening, City Council. Thank you again for giving us the opportunity to discuss our 2 projects here, Eaton Park and Remy Heights. Again, this would be for consideration for approval, hopefully for the multifamily tax exemption program that the ordinance that city has passed. I'll refer to that as MFT just to kind of shorten it going forward. And again, we can go next slide, Aaron. Just as a overview, we've discussed this product on a rezone a few other times. This would be a total of 2 separate 5-acre parcels. It would be a total of 200 units. They would sit adjacent to the existing Alder Point project that we have that's down there off of Scotton Way. That project is 180 units, existing multifamily project. Next slide. Just as a general overview, basically the Eaton Park and Remy Heights project would be part of the Mill Creek Town Center Scott Landing mixed use project. As we mentioned, we would site this directly adjacent to the 180 unit Alder Point, which we developed and we still own and manage. Again, with this being next to an existing multifamily that's been successful, we believe this would be a well-planned, compatible project that would just simply show a good, well thought out phasing of multifamily going to that area. As it's tied into the existing Scott Landing and Mill Creek Town Center project, be part of a vibrant mixed use center that's really kind of a hub of the city. Next slide. There's a couple pictures there to kind of show the extent of the project. One more slide. As an overview, just as a recap, we've been developing, we started developers of the 2 projects, Scott Landing and Mill Creek Town Center. We've been at it since 2007. We're coming up on 16 years. To date, right now, what we've got in place, there's 60 acres of property out there that we've developed. There's a total of 520,000 square feet of mixed-use product that's commercial, retail, medical, multifamily. It's currently right now valued at 160 million of construction that's been developed out there. 12 million of that's been infrastructure development, including Scott and Way. Right now, there's currently about 645 direct jobs, accounting for about 29 million of wages. Annual sales are 760 million, with about 4.3 million of annual sales and use taxes. When we add these two projects together, these two 10 acres, or excuse me, this total 10-acre projects, and we finish out the remaining pads to be developed out there at Scott and Landing. At full build out, we'll have 70 acres of property with over 800,000 square feet of commercial space and multifamily space. There'll be a total construction value of $265 million with about 15 million of infrastructure and development. So I just bring that to your attention that there's a significant amount of development that is in place right now and is continuing to be developed out there. And it really is a important and vital hub of commercial development and mixed use development out there. Next slide. As we mentioned, we develop, but we also own and operate the Alder Point project. That's an important part of this entire Scott and Landing development out there. With our ownership and our management of the project, we recognize there's a strong demand for multifamily housing. We continue to see 60+ inquiries a month from people needing to rent space. We run a waiting list. We're at 97% occupancy. We opened the doors in 2016 and it's been successful ever since. And within that, we also have, because we manage it and keep a close eye on it, we also have very good insight in the kind of residents we have. And so we know from our tenant demographics, if you will, that several of our residents would actually qualify for affordable housing under the MFTE program. We provide a certain amount, a handful of affordable units when we can. We've got a couple of veterans and a few others that frankly we provide significantly discounted rents for, but we can only do so much. We've got requirements for our lenders, loan covenants. We simply can't meet the demand out there, but we know it's significant. With these two projects that we'd be developing, Eaton Park and Remy Heights, we'd be bringing 200 total apartment units to the market. And of that, if it was approved on the MFTE program, we'd be bringing 20 units of affordable housing, and they are significantly needed. Even the prior presentation, the aging population housing is a big part of that. Affordable housing is a big part of that. So addressing that is something that we think is in the best interest of the city and the community overall. Next slide. I just wanted to give a quick overview. And again, we've all talked about affordable housing. It's been discussed at the national, regional, even local level here. I'll just give you a kind of a developer's and an owner's perspective of what's been happening. Because the question is, well, why can't we just, you should be able to kind of get together and make more affordable housing. We also have a good relationship with BHA and other public agencies. For them to develop or bring a affordable housing or any kind of housing to market, they are going to be 25 to 40% more expensive than what the private developer can bring the product to market for. It's just their model. It's just the way it is. For us, we, and not just us, but other private developers, rising costs are a major issue. When we built Alder Point in 2015, costs have gone up 80%. And actually, in this case, for multifamily, it's going to be about double for what we built Alder Point for. For us to build 90 units in the first phase, Eaton Park, it will cost us as much as it cost us to build 180 units of Alder Point. That's just pure construction cost. Regulatory environment, land use, land costs, those have all go up significantly. Even on the permitting side, we've got a great relationship with the city, and we're not trying to go ahead and point fingers anywhere, but the reality is since 2015, sewer STCs have gone up 100+%. School impact fees have gone up 68%. The point is, all of this goes into the reason why costs are so high, whether it's talking single family or multifamily. And I understand you already probably know this, but it's just kind of reemphasizing what happens. So for us to bring a unit to market, the cost now in 2015, we're here, it's up here to 2023 and beyond. And then as an ownership, so we don't just build stuff and then flip it. We like to own it and manage it and deliver it. The other side of it is the rising operating costs. Personnel, management, utilities, insurance, taxes, these are all significantly gone up as well. So as these curves bend like this, the only lever that we got is to raise rents. That's it. Our rents have to cover, you know, all the operating costs as well as the debt service and whatever's left over to try to pay off the investors and so forth. So it's an arc that's going like this. Now, the MFTE program is a tool, is potentially a powerful tool because it has, for most projects, multifamily, property taxes are one of the single biggest expense items. It's considered an operating expense. And if we can lower that operating expense number down, if we can get that to start bending down, we can then start to lower down the rents and so forth, and have that passed on as affordable units. But without that, it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to go ahead and provide any kind of affordable housing, at least from a multifamily standpoint. We also believe, and there's probably something we also didn't talk about, is interest rates. They've tripled over the last 15 months, in addition to lenders becoming much more cautious about lending money. So all that said, from a if you will, boots on the ground perspective, population is going to continue to increase. Battleground, Clark County, it's a very desirable area. That's not going to stop. We are seeing, I think, not only regional wide, but locally and nationally, housing starts are starting to slow down big time. So this problem is going to get more acute before it gets better. And we're going to see that. Next slide, Aaron. Okay, so specifically, why would we think Eaton Park, Remy Heights are great candidates for the MFTE program? Well, looking at the objectives of the MFTE ordinance as the city drafted is to encourage new multifamily development in targeted urban centers. Those were defined as a variety of businesses, services, commercial, retail, medical, banking, restaurants, public transit, all that's part of a vibrant urban center. Adequate public infrastructure, including facilities, streets, sidewalks, lighting, sewer. Includes a mixture of uses, including housing, office, recreation. All these elements are part of the Mill Creek Town Center, Scott and Landing developments. This again is that corridor has become a vital hub of commercial and mixed use activity. And it's not just our property. If you look at what's directly across the street, if you add that into it, there's a total of 750,000 square feet of all these facilities and uses, and they're all pedestrian friendly and they're supported by public transportation as well. I do know that the one project that was approved for the MFTE by the city, I believe that's the West Main Commons project. And it's a good project. We support development in the city. We support that project. We think a rising tide lifts all ships. So we think when it comes online, it'll be a good addition to the city. I think it's worth pointing out that project, I think what the city is looking to get with that project, and I think it will deliver, which is a good mixed use project. It's 10 acres, that site. I believe they've got planned 38,000 square feet of retail and commercial space and somewhere about 220 units, which again, that's all very, very good. And we support it. This site here, if it's approved, this is not something that will be built or might be built. This is what's existing now. We've got 70 acres versus 10. We're talking a site that's 7 times the size of that. What's in place right now on the ground is 310,000 square feet of commercial and retail space. So when we build out the remaining space, there'll be 375,000 square feet of commercial space. That's 10 times the amount that we're talking about the other site. And all told, we'll have about 400 units of multifamily. So it's you know, we don't think it has to be an either or. We're just saying that there's a significant amount of mixed use and urban center development right down there that's on a very, very large scale. Next slide. The other aspect and I think goal of the MFT ordinance was to look to target areas in which infrastructure exists or could be brought to that serves a dense area and a wide variety of services right there. So in other words, we have to go ahead and build a whole bunch of stuff to attract new affordable housing. As we mentioned before earlier, These projects will invest in infrastructure. They're not asking for new infrastructure. Or piece of that's going to be the completion of Southwest 15th Avenue. That will connect, obviously, Scott and Way down south to Eaton Boulevard, and it'll tie into the new Eaton widening. That's on the city's transportation plan. At this point right now, we're looking at least 1.1 million for that. That's going to create a regional-wide benefit. Next slide, Aaron. The other piece that we're going to develop as far as public infrastructure will be a sewer pump station. Currently, right now, there is no sewer in that region, and it affects 100 acres. So that little blue dot is our 10 acres. This is the Gardner Subbasin that this sewer pump station will serve. That's 100 acres. When built out, our two projects will use about 30% of the sewer capacity. So, you know, we're not looking just to develop infrastructure for our site. We're looking to develop it that's going to have a regional wide benefit, and it's going to spur development of those other 100 acres. And within the 100 acres, there's commercial and mixed use and housing properties. But frankly, sewer, because it's lacking, is a major impediment to development. So in addition to that, we've got public infrastructure as far as public transportation, high-speed broadband, commercial power in there. This is not a project that's going to be asking for public infrastructure. It's going to be going into developing more public infrastructure. And we've done that throughout our history with the city's cooperation and support, which has been great. Scott and Way was a public project. It's brought in and opened up that corridor. This is going to continue on that what we've already done. So I think just in conclusion, again, we believe this area is going to grow. There's a huge demand for housing of all sorts, but particularly for affordable housing. Rising construction costs, operational expenses, financing will continue to compound the affordability issue. We believe these are ideal candidates, both the Remy and the Eaton Park project, because of the goals as was written out in the FTE ordinance. New development in a vibrant commercial area where these services exist, all within, pedestrian friendly. We're going to further invest up to $2.5 million in public infrastructure in addition to what we've already developed. So we're not asking for public infrastructure. We're going to put in that, and not just for ours, but to serve a much broader area. Again, 20 units of affordable housing has a potential of a major impact in the community. And again, it's going to be adjacent to a proven, vibrant area of apartments. And I think I'd just like to say that this program is a tool, it's a potentially powerful tool to address affordability. And so we would just encourage it to give it, serious thought, because this is one of the very few tools we see that has the potential to have an immediate impact on affordability. So, I appreciate your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Fontenette? Yes, ma'am.
Sorry if it was already clarified, but which one were you looking at? Isn't there multiple agreements, or what's the terminology where you could do 10 years, 12 years?
The way our code was written and adopted, we only have the 8-year option available at this time.
8-year, and then what was the affordable housing percentage?
20%.
I think it's 10%.
Oh, 10%. I'm sorry. Yes.
And
10%.
then, and it's just for the 8 years.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
And it was just affordable, not low income, right?
Correct.
80% AMI.
80% what?
AMI.
Oh, AMI. Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Fontenette, is there any way that you can get us numbers on roughly what the estimated construction sales tax that those project sites would generate to the city? And then secondarily, based upon the existing apartments that you have there and the consumption that they use for utilities, what would the estimated utility tax revenue to the city be?
Okay.
If there's a way to give us an estimate.
So we'll get sales and
sales tax on the construction cost. And then utility tax generation from what 200 units would generate.
Okay.
On average.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I was just thinking previously, before we had our transportation benefit district sales tax, that before I probably wouldn't have been as interested because, it's a big cost. So with that and all the sales tax and everything from the project, it's more appealing this go around than it was before, I believe. That we would actually still get quite a bit of sales tax revenue regardless of waiving fees. So I'm still up in the air on it, but I am, the more I think about it and your presentation, that I'm more favorable of it. So, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Fontaine, do you happen to know? So you're doing 200 units there. What is the average cost per unit to build? You know that?
I do. I never like to go ahead and admit it, but for the first project, so we have to, first of all, back up, we had to build them in 2 phases because these 2 projects total 5 acres, sorry, they total 10 acres, 2 separate 5 acres. There's the gas line that comes right down between those 2. And between that and the wetlands, we cannot build these things as one. So we have to unfortunately bifurcate them and there's not as efficient. Phase 1, which is Eaton Park, Councilman, that's coming in right now in our budget at over $320,000 a unit per door.
Okay.
We expect Remy Heights to be more than that. We are envisioning because if Remy Heights is actually going to be smaller, we're actually envisioning that to be a smaller project. We're going to have smaller units, but it's going to be something that's elevator served ideally. And that's probably going to be more like 350,000 plus a door.
Is it the only reason I asked that? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, and you just brought up a good point. I'll tell you the biggest issue I have with this project is when you have the fire district that doesn't get to come in and we get to wipe out all the taxes the fire district would collect. And the schools and it still blows my mind that we can do that. I don't know how we can do that, but we do. But when you're talking public safety and the other one that we did, they offered to throw some money towards, I think, to offset some of the fire stuff. But I look at, a ladder truck now is close to $2 million per ladder truck. And most of the Walmart was a reason we got a ladder truck. These apartments are reasons we have ladder trucks. When we start building higher and higher, we need these ladder trucks and they're very expensive and the useful life on them is 20 years. To keep our rating, it's 20 years, right? And those ratings are important for insurance purposes. That. So that's my biggest concern is when we go into projects like this and this, you're the second, you won't be the last. We'll have a lot of these. And then you hear from like BIA would like to do away with all impact fees and figure out how to, spread it out differently so that it's not impacting you guys as a developer up front, right? You pay those up front. And so it's really tough to balance that and figure out what that balance is. It's tough for you guys, it's tough for us to balance that and figure out what that is because that impact going away for 8 years. We talk about it every year when we're in here about we're allowed to take a 1% increase by state law. And we hear often, what's the effect of not taking that 10 years down the road, right? That compounding effect, and that's the challenge here too, is like, what's the compounding effect of what is that going to look like? And that's why I think it's important, like, having all of the, what are you going to generate for sales tax, utility tax, or those type of things. We want to continue to build, and I get the, 80%, what we consider affordable housing here is not considered affordable housing on the east side of the state. And what New York considers to be affordable housing is cheap here. And so you know, we have to look at all of that stuff when we're looking at this and, you know, I appreciate, you know, I'd love to hear the rest when you bring it forward to see where we're going to be, because those are things that I think we need to have conversations about too, and include other people. It's easy for us to make those decisions, but not include Fire District 3 who services us. And so those are the type of things I'd like to see is we can look at what it's going to cost us. I would love to see what is it going to cost, you know, the other agencies when we make this decision, because it doesn't just affect us. Sure. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anyone else?
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I thought we learned something about the agencies cut their budget and that they get their money regardless if it gets covered. They're not-
Well, it does, but it gets covered by the 23,000 of us in the neighborhood.
not getting paid.
But it is getting paid,
Right,
but
they make it sound like they're missing out, but they're still.
They're missing out on $2 million.
On what, the impact fees?
Well, the fees that you would collect, the taxes that they would collect, they miss out on that money, right?
So when they set their budget and then for the users.
The remaining users, but somebody's missing out on money. So if you take $2 million away, somebody's missing out. That means if you got 20,000 people, the other 20,000 people are going to pay for it, and these people over here don't. That's what's happening. And that's what happens when we there's more than just, I mean, it's easy to say, because you could say the same thing with a single family residence. Why don't we do this for all single family residents? We got 600 of them going to go in right over here. Why don't we just give them the same thing and say, look, if you lower your house by $10,000, we'll call it good. It's you lose that revenue, and it's not just us. It's everybody that loses that revenue. So that fire truck is now paid for only by, let's just say there's 5,000 units here in town, and we just added 200 more. The 200 more don't pay for that fire truck, the 5,000.
Right, but I'm not saying I'm for or against it, but it's still getting covered. It's not a less amount, right? If they have a budget.
Yes.
it's a certain amount,
Yeah, the
Yes.
millage rate.
the millage rate's the same. You're
It's the same.
You're correct.
Not to be negative, it's gonna be spread out over everyone, right? Whatever their budget
Yes.
is.
So 20 units to 23,000 people. So the 23,000 people will be paying for the 20 units.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not a less amount. They're not losing.
The number will be the same. You're correct.
Yes.
It's just who's paying the freight.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Anyone else? Seeing no one, Mr. Fontenette, we appreciate the information. If you'll get what's been requested to Ms. Erdman, we will start digging through that and try to digest what we can digest. And at that point, we'll come up with something.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, sir. Parks and Community Engagement Board, I believe that's you, Mr. Ferrier, is it, sir?
Yes, sir, it is.
Please.
At a prior meeting, the city council directed staff to seek recommendations from the PACE board regarding the banners that honor military service members in our community. As council knows, this is part of the Banners and Bricks program. There have been a limited number of individuals who purchased the banners. Council's prior direction to staff was to seek feedback from the PACE board on program modification, including the possible expansion of the program to include first responders and teachers. While the PACE board acknowledges the contributions provided by first responders and teachers in our community and thanks them for their service, they're not supportive of expanding the banner program to include them at this time. The intention of the program originally was to honor servicemen and women, and they believe it should be maintained as such. That said, and as noted in the attachment on the staff report on this matter, the board would like to see staff enhance and strengthen the frequency of our program marketing to include any of the following: direct mailers promoting the banner program, as well as notices in the utility bill, additional social media posts to increase community awareness of the program, as well as outreach to local veteran groups, local recruitment offices, and ROTC groups with the goal of maximizing community awareness. In addition, recognizing that the cost to produce and purchase a banner, which currently honors a single service person on each banner, which is about $250 per banner, may represent an impediment to the program. The board also thought it may be worth considering spreading the cost among multiple service members. By this, the banners could be redesigned so that they recognize a single branch of service, i.e. the U.S. Army, the U.S. Navy, with the names of multiple individuals on each banner. That would essentially spread the cost among multiple people. So instead of paying $250 for the banner, it might be $50 or $60 per person to be included on a banner. Staff believes that the PACE Board's recommendations of working over the next year to improve our marketing represents a sound path forward. At this time, we ask the City Council to provide that direction accordingly. At the conclusion of that time, staff would return to City Council, provide an update on how things are going, and then seek further guidance from council as it deems appropriate, including any possible changes to the design of the banners. That concludes our presentation. We're available for any questions.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any questions for Mr. Ferrier? Mr. Ferrier, oh, I'm sorry. Nope. Mr. Ferrier, I listened to their presentation, your presentation, and I believe that is a wonderful idea as far as service wide. And then with a number of names listed, again, I would ask the board to come back with us if we put the emblem on, what number of names and what would be the size so they would be readable, legible from as we cruise by. Have they already done that?
They've looked at that. The banners are 30 inches by 84 inches, so that's 7 feet tall. And so when you're cruising by, the smaller the font gets, the more difficult it is to read, of course. And so they'd have to look at ways where they could try to balance cost with being readable.
Exactly.
For lack of a better phrase. And so if we're unable to successfully market the program over the next year and we come back to you and ask that direction, we'd have to provide a sample of what that might look like so that you can make an educated decision of what you think is the best path forward.
That would be cool. And then I would ask the city, as I always do, May, of course, is Military Appreciation Month, and November, of course, is Veterans Day, that perhaps that we set up for our water bills in April and October, that in November they come out with a listing.
If I could, I think we'd actually probably want to do a little sooner than that, pushed up a little bit because we have to make sure we market it and get a number of people involved. There's a minimum number. If you have one person on a banner, the minimum number is 5. And so we would need to work with whoever produces these banners to make sure we have an adequate number of people. So the more lead time we have, the better it is.
Perfect. And again, as always, I having Memorial Day just behind us in the last week or two, I would also mention that the bricks somewhere that they be as promoted.
We do that. We will do that. Yes. It's the Bricks and Banner program.
Wonderful. Any other questions for Mr. Ferrier for the city? Seeing none, we'll move along. I would be a little remiss. I'm sorry. We do have with us tonight, Ms. Beaver. Ms. Beaver, it is a pleasure to have you. She's our observer this evening. And moving on. So thanks again for coming. It is a pleasure to have you as always. Citizens communications. Individuals are limited to 3 minutes to provide comment. We may not be able to respond to individual comments and may refer you to a staff member to assist. We'll start with Mr. Kempion. I probably mispronounced that and I apologize. Come on up, sir. Last month, we did receive from you a couple of pages, if you will, probably a few more than a couple of pages, but we did receive those. And so if you will state your name for the record, pronounce properly, and
Sure,
then
Derek Kempinen.
and then we'll roll on.
Okay. Good evening, honorable council members. My name is Derek Kempinen. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Battleground with a love for every member of the community who lives here. Reason I'm here tonight is to ask that a motion be made to discontinue the practice of adding fluoride to the clean and pure water we receive from Clark PUD before distributing it to our citizens. As you know, the decision of whether or not to fluoridate our water is solely in your hands. And one thing that the dentist didn't talk about when they testified to you in 2021 was that ingesting fluoride affects a lot more than just the teeth. There's a lot of science to back that up. And the big elephant in the room with fluoride the dentist won't address is fluoride's effect on IQ, as well as the links to ADHD and learning disabilities. There's actually 76 different studies showing that drinking fluoridated water reduces IQ by 4 to 8 points, 7 points on average, which is right in line with the IQ decrease that's been found with prolonged lead exposure. And a 5-point decrease in the IQ of children in a community doubles the number of children considered intellectually disabled. As a parent, would it be a tough decision to choose between an intellectual disability versus a potential cavity? It's pretty well established that fluoride is more toxic than lead and only marginally less toxic than arsenic, yet it isn't regulated that way by the EPA. Can you imagine if we spent those $33,000 that we put towards fluoride from the community's tax dollars each year to instead buy powdered lead and pouring that into the drinking water? That feels totally wrong, doesn't it? Yet adding lead to our water would actually do less harm to the brains of our children in our community than adding fluoride. The dentists that testified to you in 2021 can't speak to those studies that show fluoride is a toxin. Instead, they parrot what they've heard. They claim fluoride has been proven safe and effective for 60 years. This is the same thing PR experts did with tobacco, finally admitting tobacco caused cancer 45 years after they initially figured out that it caused cancer, having paid doctors to claim all the while that the science is settled and smoking does not cause cancer. Today, the ADA and dentists willfully ignore the studies showing that in addition to reducing IQ, fluoride also causes thyroid dysfunction, hypothyroidism, low energy, weight gain, increases in dental fluorosis or mottled teeth with spots that are brown, yellow, and white, and it causes skeletal fluorosis, which leads to increased susceptibility of fractures, osteoarthritis, and arthritis, which causes painful joints and muscles, increases cancer and osteosarcoma, negatively affects the reproductive system and calcifies the pineal gland, causing reduced melatonin production, insomnia, and Alzheimer's disease, schizophrenia, and depression. And with that list of incredible benefits that fluoride provides, fluoride is the only drug that's added to our water supply. And if you think about it, that's pretty fascinating. Heart attacks are far more prevalent cause of death in our community today than tooth decay. Could you imagine mass medicating the population of Battleground via our water supply with barrels of powdered cholesterol or blood pressure medication to reduce heart attacks? It feels kind of crazy to think about. Let's follow. Oh, go ahead.
We're at our 3 minutes. If you'd wrap it up, please, sir.
Okay, let's follow Mayor Thompson's suggestion when he brought this up in 2021. Let's get back to adding only what the EPA requires in our water, chlorine. Doesn't it seem like the conservative choice to abandon this practice of mass medicating the residents of City Battleground with a hazardous waste product and join the others that are tossing water fluoridation in the trash heap of public health disasters with the likes of asbestos, lead, and DDT? In conclusion, I'd like to ask if the council has any questions or if you would reconsider a motion as was made by Councilmember Johnson and DeRochers to remove fluoride from the City of Battleground's water supply effective 45 days from the date the decision is made.
Thank you, sir. A pleasure to have you. We'll see you around town.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the council this evening? Please, if so, please step up and give us your name. Seeing no one, we'll close that out and move on. I do see, Mr. Cortez, you buzzed in. Did I miss something?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. We'll move to the consent agenda. Does any council member believe that any item needs to be withdrawn?
Move to approve as presented.
Thank you, sir. Second, thank you, Mr. Bowman. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Moving on to the business portion here this evening, we'll start with Ms. Erdman with the latecomer code schedule amendment.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson.
Yes, ma'am.
The city has been approached by, by Hinton Development for ideas on assistance for reducing costs for construction of 92nd Avenue to the south, along with the improvements that are required with that project at the intersection of SR2 and 92nd Avenue. The cost to make the improvements to both the intersection and the construction of 92nd Avenue to the south, which includes a very expensive bridge crossing, make this project unfeasible. The city currently allows for reimbursement agreements for the construction of water and sewer infrastructure that will benefit neighboring properties. And this is the same concept. So essentially, if a development comes in and provides water and sewer that will benefit other properties down the line, we will enter an agreement with the contractor, with the developer. It puts basically a lien on the other properties. So as they develop, they pay their fair share of the construction of that infrastructure. This is the same exact concept when it comes to streets. So any other properties that are able to be served by the construction of that street would then pay their fair share once they start to develop. As part of your packet, there's a draft code section for this. We kept this pretty generic. A lot of the details are defined and figured out within the agreements themselves. And those agreements do come to council for adoption and approval. So in front of you tonight is just consideration of the code. We do have a public hearing that will be scheduled for the next meeting on June. No, we don't have a public hearing scheduled yet. If you guys are good with this, then we will move forward with scheduling a public hearing and drafting an ordinance for adoption. All right, get the three projects mixed up.
I think we made it. Any questions for Ms. Erdman about this? Is there any heartache with it? Does anyone have any heartache with it?
Pretty straightforward.
Yep, I look forward to the public hearing.
Yeah, so
Okay,
we'll
we will get
go ahead
something
and
scheduled and an ordinance drafted.
set up and listen for that. The one question I do have, so the original builder, we'll call him or her, they give the city the total cost, and then at that point, the city would do the math to try to figure out what the guy in A owes and what the guy in B owes.
Yeah, so we take the total cost, we subtract any credits that they're given, what, their actual cost would be for their portion of the project, and then the rest of it is divided up amongst the properties based on size and frontage.
Okey-doke, thank you. Moving on to the recycling service discussion. Mr. Ferrier, we're back to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. In June of last year, the city extended its interlocal agreement with Clark County after a robust discussion regarding collection of recyclables through Waste Connections of Washington. Pursuant to the terms of that interlocal, the city retained its weekly recyclable collection through December of this year, December 31st, 23. The interlocal is approaching its end date. Staff requests the city council provide policy direction regarding the recycling services. Although specific terms regarding any future recycling collection would need to be negotiated between the parties. Staff has invited representatives from both the county and Waste Connections to be at the meeting this evening and answer your questions you may have. I will note that Derek Ranta from Waste Connections and Joelle Lesher from the county are here. No formal action is being asked of you at this time. Depending on the guidance that provided by the city council during this meeting, staff intends to initiate negotiations with those parties concerning the terms of a new recycling services agreement, bring that back to you at a future date for review and consideration of approval. That concludes staff's report. We're available for any questions you may have.
Does it boil down to every week versus every other week?
That would be one issue that we would need to talk about, yes.
And with that, then of course would be the cost.
That's associated with it, yes, sir.
Okay. And yes, ma'am.
As you know, I was very passionate about this when we talked about it before, and I would like to continue with the weekly service. Personally, I feel it's necessary. There's only 2 people in our household, and how much cardboard comes with everything you buy. You fill that, I fill it up every week to the top with cardboard and other recyclables, obviously. So I'm for keeping it weekly. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I will echo the deputy mayor's comments. My position is to maintain the weekly service level. Just in anecdotal information, talking to my neighbors, they wouldn't be a fan of switching that process. Any increase is not an increase that the city's charging. It's an increase that Waste Connections is charging for that. So that's where I stand.
Yes, sir. Anyone else?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
I'd be interested in hearing the cost savings that going to every other week would provide the citizens, as well as less wear and tear on the streets. Those are pretty heavy vehicles. I believe the original proposal was we get twice the container size. So I think the argument for not having enough room is null and void when you consider you put it out half as often and you get twice as much storage. So I'd be interested just to see what the cost savings are. I don't think we can really be one way or the other until I see what the numbers are.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, just
That's okay.
in regards to the wear and tear on the roads, in my head, it seems like if we're doing double, isn't it the same wear and tear? Because you're gonna pick up more
You're gonna be there half as often with the heavy truck.
but it's twice as heavy, right? You're picking up
It's the truck,
double.
it's the truck, not
Oh,
the,
you're
not
also,
the weight of the,
you're also gonna have a bin in there that's even larger, taking more space in your garage. I mean,
that's true.
before you know it, it's gonna be the
But
size
it's
of your
not
car.
Could be.
Every other city in the county figures it out.
Well, that was my question, Mr. Ferrier,
With the exception of Camus.
to the gentlemen, who are online. Are we the only city that is currently, weekly?
That's us and Camas, I believe, are the two cities.
Us and Camas?
Yeah, I've got that right, don't I? Yes.
They don't offer that in the county? Does the the county pick up? It's every other week in the county as well. So the two of us, Camas and Battleground, are the holdouts.
Considering I'm hearing some different stories on the city council, maybe what I could offer is we staff work with both the county and Waste Connections to pull together some data specific to what some of these questions you're asking. That may sway you or not sway you, but at least it'll give you some more information to make an informed decision on.
I mean, I don't want to just switch because the county's doing it. The county does a lot of things that are very terrible. So, doesn't mean we want to follow them.
I understand.
Yes.
And just to add some feedback, right after they changed in the county, I got blown up on Nextdoor with everybody complaining about it. And so at that time, I felt pretty good about that we kept the weekly service when I saw everybody complaining about how terrible it was. So I imagine that people wouldn't be as happy to go to biweekly in the city either. So
Yeah, if I could put this into Rob speak, I think I've got some work to do. And so maybe I come back to you at a future date and present it to you at that time.
My question is, if it ends on December 31st, if we work our way back, at what point are you going to have a decision from us? Is August?
Yeah, I think the way our current interlocal is written is we have to provide by the end of this month, some kind of like what we think are our best, what we'd like to do, and then we negotiate based on that. So
So we need to make a decision by the 15th of June?
no, what I'm saying is I need to do some more work, essentially what I need to do.
Okay. Anyone, pardon?
this is separate from our garbage.
Yes.
payment, Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this it is separate from the garbage. Any other questions of Mr. Ferrier and the gentleman? Seeing none.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. Moving on to the Clark Regional Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan. Oh, boy. Mr. Herzeg.
Give me 1 second. I'll get my PowerPoint up.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Good night.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I'll be brief with my presentation tonight, but we're going to talk about the Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan. Outline of my presentation. So I'll talk about what it is, why we're talking about it, what has changed, what our next steps are, and then any questions. So what it is it's a plan that identifies natural hazard risks within the county and the city. And those are things such as earthquakes, volcanoes, floods, that kind of thing. The last update of the plan that was created, that happened in 2017. Why we're talking about it now, or why we talk about it, is to develop strategies to reduce those risks. It's required by FEMA to make ourselves eligible for federal mitigation grant funding. And the plan update also incorporates changes in federal law since the previous plan. What has changed in this current edition of the plan for Battleground specifically is that we eliminated a couple of our mitigation measures because we actually completed the projects. One was adding a generator plug to wells 1 and 2, which allows us to connect a mobile generator to those. And then the generator was added here at City Hall. 2 mitigation measures were added to the new plan, generator plugs at the other wells in the city, and then generator plug at community center. Our next steps for this plan is at the June 15th meeting, council will have an opportunity to adopt a resolution adopting the plan. Happy to answer any questions.
Yes, sir.
A lot of these have generator plugs. How many generators do we have in order, I mean, if they all went out?
Right now, we have, I believe, one mobile. Most of our facilities have stationary. All the pump stations have stationary. City Hall has stationary. Think PD has stationary. Most of the wells are on or set up for mobile. My long-term plan is to head more towards stationary on at least the biggest wells. But it depends on how big the emergency is. If sort of like the end of the world emergency, the plan is to use wells 1 and 2 as sort of the main hub just to get water out there. It would be more like a bottle delivery system. It's not to, if you have an earthquake, all the pipes are going to be destroyed anyway. So we're not getting water out to the city. But if we have well 1 and 2 that can work, we can fill bottles, have that set up as the thing. So that's kind of the goal. So that's why there's a little bit of a difference in the stationary versus mobile. But I believe we have at least one right now for mobile.
Any other questions of Mr. Herzig? On June 15th, what are you going to be asking us?
We'll have a resolution. It will be the same one as 2017, where it just adopts the current version. We send that off to CRESA, and that will make us eligible for future grants and FEMA money if anything happens.
Thank you. We'll see you then. Moving on to resolution number 23-04, the fee schedule amendment. Looks like we're heading to Ms. Lowry.
Good evening, council. So before you is a resolution that adopts a rate for our EV stations that are out in the parking lot that are ready to go. So we're just waiting to assess this fee. We did work with Clark Public Utilities to figure out the rate. As with any charges for services that the city charges, we can't make a profit on it. And with the limited infrastructure, we want to make sure that we keep a close eye to make sure we're not making a profit on these. And so we went with the 15 cents per kilowatt, following what CPU suggested and what they currently use. And then in addition to that, they gave a suggestion of $5 an hour as a penalty for anybody who stays plugged in past them becoming fully charged. And that has eliminated for them people staying in those spots. And then the second part of this is adding 12.119 of the code section that Aaron talked about tonight, just to allow us to be able to collect those fees for latecomers agreement should that move forward. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Any questions of Ms. Lowry? Over the week, I have asked Ms. Lowry and Ms. Erdman, rather than running at 15 cents, that we run with the going rate, which seems to be anywhere from 29 to 49, not to make a profit, but to reimburse us for the cost of the machinery. So at whatever point, whenever we've made back the cost of the machine of the, I don't want to call it machinery, but the apparatus, we would at that point drop back to whatever the cost would be, so that again, we're not making money on the deal. And so this evening, I would ask us to think about anywhere from 29 to 49. I went through and looked at whatever the website is across the county and across Multnomah County. And those seem to be 29, 39, and 49 seem to be the going numbers on a kilowatt hour. And we could, if you wish, we could start at 15 cents kind of to build a crowd, let folks know it's there with the explanation that we will be raising that at some point, whatever point we chose. The other thing I would ask is that we think about opening it from 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the evening until 6 o'clock in the morning, to let those who may live locally or close park here to fill the car up, and without the $5 fee. So that, they roll in at 11 or whatever it is, and then roll back out at 6, back on their way. And that gets use of the machine, of the apparatus, and fulfills their need as well. I don't know why we would penalize someone. There are four apparatuses down there, so there will be room for folks to fill up, if you will. Any thoughts on that?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I don't have a problem with the hours as you just described it. It sounds like a reasonable action to do. My question to Megan, what the mayor was suggesting on increasing it to recoup the cost of the equipment, is that's allowable to do?
So with the 15 cents per kilowatt hour, we're actually are going to be making a little bit of money. So it's going to be a learning period with CPU because of how we're charged the rate. So we're charged 4 cents a kilowatt hour now. However, there's a demand load, which that changes day to day, like your largest amount of time. And then it's $6.77 per kilowatt hour. So we don't know when these are going to be used. And so it will be dependent upon how many people are using them, what they're using them for, but based on what CPU has seen, that 15 cents will gain us a little bit of a positive in everything that they've seen. And that's what would eat down. It just won't eat it down as much. And yes, we are allowed to do that. We just can't get to the point of reinvestment like we would a utility. Like with our utilities, we do our 20-year projections, we set our rates to then have system reinvestment to then not have to raise rates. This isn't truly a utility. This is a service that we're offering that we just want to recoup our costs.
Sure. So with that in mind, hypothetically, we say, yes, let's go with the 15 cents. How often will it be monitored and how often can it be adjusted based upon the data that you're getting?
We will be monitoring it very closely because again, we can't earn a profit on this. So we're going to have a sub-meter CPU is providing us installed on it so we can see what the kilowatt hour usage is. And then at that point, moving forward, it will be a requirement of us at least every other month or quarterly at minimum to review what our revenue and expenses to see where we're at and what we're netting. So it will be pretty quick, like it'll be a frequent review.
But you'll have to come to council to
Correct.
constantly adjust it?
Correct. I would have to come to council if it came to a point of, we're at this point. At this point in time, because we have the infrastructure in place, I don't believe I'll have to come back in 2 months. I will come back for next year's rates. And if there's something that needs to be adjusted at that time, then I would adjust it. My hope would not be to come every month and say we need to adjust the rates. It would probably be at most twice yearly. And I don't even think it'll be that.
Okay, and then how did we pay for the equipment?
So we paid for it with the general fund. So the general fund paid for it and then we're getting reimbursed as a rebate program from CPU for installing it because of all the money right now for the climate control. It's a mandate essentially that they want to get these installed so folks switch over to electronic vehicles as well as fleets of cities and government. So there is that money that will cover half of it.
Cover half of the
Total cost,
installation?
yep,
Oh,
of
the
the
total
installation.
cost.
Correct.
So installation plus the equipment.
Yep.
Okay, so we're only gonna be on the hook for half of whatever it is.
Correct.
Okay. Could we get like a quarterly statement, for lack of better words, on how much is being paid back every quarter? On what the city has expended in
Yes,
total?
I can just add it to my quarterly financial presentations in the beginning. That's
Yeah.
an easy thing for me to do.
Okay, so I mean, that being said, I'd support starting at 15 cents and then it gets reevaluated and go from there. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mrs. Davis.
I have a question. I'm not familiar with it. And how long, I guess, to fully charge a vehicle? I mean, I don't want to think ill of people, but say they only need an hour of charging, but they live close by and then they get a parking space, but they don't really need it to charge. So I'm really curious, does it take a long time to fully charge a car where it would be overnight?
It could take up to 6 hours depending We're a level 2, right?
It's gonna be a level 2 charger. So hourly, you probably get somewhere between 8 and 12 miles per hour on a charge. So if you got there for 2 hours, sometimes somewhere between 16 and 24 miles is what you just added on to your battery life.
I guess we just have to kind of visually monitor and hope that people aren't plopping there because
Well,
it's
I'm-
convenient and they.
Yeah, well, that would be kind of odd in the sense, yes, because I mean, some of these batteries are good size kilowatt hour batteries. So if they're going to take the time to plug in here, then they're going to have to use it. Yes.
So a couple things. So you can put signage on there, which limits the amount of time you can spend parked there. For example, if you want to limit it to no more than 4 hours, you sign it. So it says you can only park there for 4 hours. And you have the ability to turn off the juice, right? So if they reach a certain time where someone is just, for lack of a better phrase, they're hogging the space, you can turn the juice off. So they're not getting more benefit from parking their vehicle there. That makes sense?
They're getting fined, right?
Well, they're not getting, you could potentially do that if you wanted to, but.
You could. Yes, I would suggest we not start with that just because we don't want to be those people, but.
Perhaps a
yes.
better way to do is start with the velvet glove approach.
Exactly. And anything else, Ms. Davis? Please.
With the rate increase, I think I'm interested to see, Councilmember Cortez said, let's monitor it and see if we have to raise it. If, no one wants to raise it, but it's also hard to, you don't want to go backwards. So I would be very interested in what Mr. Cortez said and just see if we need to raise it. If not, I don't want to really go that high at first, but just see how it pays off quarterly, like I said. So.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm thinking the 15 cents. I just don't like the idea of the newbies having to cover the whole cost of the equipment, right? And then we would lower it, right? Is that what the idea is?
Do what?
The first people that utilize it until we pay it off, they have to pay the higher rate and then we would lower it after we paid our bill.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't like the idea of them having to cover the cost of the equipment up front instead of just spreading it out over everyone at the 15 cents, right?
Well, but the opposite of that is that even though it will be the only level 2 charger in the North County, because I went and looked, there's one in Salmon Creek and then in Orchards and that kind of thing. You would be, if someone else came, which there are people down the street who have put in the apparatus, you would be in competition with them with taxpayer dollars. So they spent their money, $50,000 to put their stuff in, but they are up against the taxpayer, which really didn't have to pay. So my suggestion that we go at 29 cents or whatever makes back our money, also keeps us equal with everyone else so that we're not in competition with Mr. Bowman and his machine, if he had one, or Mr. whomever with their machine. That's why I say that.
But long-term, how would we do that? Because we'd have to lower the price anyways after we pay it off and we'd still be in competition with.
But we're talking about $30,000 at 10 cents a kilowatt hour.
It's gonna take a long time. You're gonna be replacing equipment before you pay
It will take a while for us if we're at 20 cents a kilowatt hour, we'll say, to make back 30 grand.
And there's my question. What at 15 cents, when do you project paying that?
I honestly haven't run the numbers for that. So I couldn't tell you off the cuff.
I mean, that requires a huge amount of assumptions based upon.
Well, so does, it's a rate. It's
Well,
dependent on the rate.
I mean, I have a partially electric car. I pay, just like you do at your house, 8.7 cents a kilowatt hour is what the PUD charges you to run a light bulb. And so I have a level 2 charger in my house that I installed, but I just do not think it's right for the city to use Mr. Bowman's money. We'll use him as an example with his machine and then compete against him and then undercut him. And so if we're 15 cents an hour, our 4 spots will be well taken if his has to be at 32 cents an hour so that he can, he can make his deal. So that's the reason I say that.
Well, and to that point, I understand what you're saying, Mr. Mayor, and I think what Deputy Mayor's kind of getting at is, then we go back, but that gives that person a chance to make up their money as well. So if we both start at the same level, we're both at 29 or whatever it is, and we both do that for however long it takes. Well, by the time we've paid off our machine, I would assume that the
They should
private
be-
party has also paid
Should
off
be doing
theirs.
theirs as well.
And so for that reason, I support your idea.
So I just ran the numbers really quick for you, Troy. So based on
my.
They're not that, wait, I'm not giving you a range.
Some dark
So,
magic calculus.
Yes, dark magic. So when we were looking at it, most electric vehicles range from 40 to 100 kilowatts per hour. And then we take that divided by the 15 cents to get down to 2,000 charges is what it would take to pay off the 30,000. Now, how long that's going to take for 2,000 vehicles to roll through those 4 stations?
Popularity.
I genuinely have no basis for estimating that.
2,000 vehicles at 100 kilowatt hours. Is that what you said?
Yep.
Yes, most aren't at 100 kilowatt hours. So, okay, I understand. I do pay a little attention to that. So, Mr. Bowman, sir.
Thank you. We could, just like any other utility though, these are going to have maintenance, they're going to go out, we're going to need new ones. PD's fleet is going to be electrified soon. So we need ones down there, I'm sure. Why couldn't we be at the normal rate and add, see how it does? If it's busy, why can't we add more charging stations to other places in the city that are owned by the city, like community center, PD, ops, those type of things where people can come.
So that's an excellent point that you bring up. So if we want this to become a utility, it'll be a new fund. It will be presented just like sewer, storm, and water. And with it will come all of those lovely things that come with that. I will say that in speaking with the city of Ridgefield, they are offering their chargers for free at their park. And when they add their additional chargers, they're going to be doing them at a discount at a subsidy. Because the intent of their program, what their council has decided is to incentivize folks to go electric and to go down that mandate. Essentially what the state's done and the feds have done with all the money going out. I have not seen it yet go the route of becoming a full utility, at least for the government's doing this. C-Tran is offering theirs for free, I believe. And then CPU again is at that 15 cents. So they're barely making it with their maintenance costs. So I guess that is 100% a council directive. If you want it to become a utility, we will make that happen. We can do exactly what you said. If you wanted to do that later down the road, we have talked about that internally with staff we do know that is coming for ops. We're going to have to add them. We're going to have to add them down at the police station as this becomes more available, as the infrastructure becomes available to purchase these vehicles. So we can absolutely do that now, or we could do that down the road. And again, that is 100% up to council if you want it to become that.
Because I would rather see us do, whether we like it or not, this is the direction it's going. I agree with the mayor. When we're talking about competing with businesses that put in the infrastructure, that would be similar to us having a gas station, but we don't charge the 60-cent tax that the state charges. You get to buy gas from us cheaper, and how does anyone else compete with that? So I don't like that part of it, and I would rather set it up as a utility and start to invest if we're having to go that route, which is crazy to me. And I would suspect that most people that buy an electric car probably have a charger that they buy to charge it at their home. And that this would, and this goes back to my point of parking at night, that this would probably be more used by people coming through or needing a charging station. And I could be wrong on that, but so that's the reason why I wouldn't be in support of letting you park overnight at our city hall to charge your car. I did not know though that it takes 2 hours to charge it so you can drive 24 miles. Frick, I can walk half of that in 2 hours.
Yeah,
fat.
right.
So I'll run a third of it downhill, but it doesn't,
I will pay 29 cents an hour to watch that.
it doesn't make a lot of sense to me that you'd have to wait that long. I thought these were.
They're
I
not,
thought they
they're
were
not
some
level,
kind of a supercharger.
they're not Tesla chargers and they're not level 3 chargers.
Yeah, level 3 charge, what you're talking about, Councilman, are the very expensive ones that charge very quickly.
So then to my point, going back to number one is why can't we charge the going rate and start to put money away for level 3 chargers because that benefits everybody. There's no way we charge our fleet on these if they make us start going electric. And so we're going to need level 3 chargers. So why don't we start putting money away then for that and offer level 3 chargers? I know they're more expensive, but this gives us an opportunity to start to collect money for that as a utility.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
so Shane kind of brought up what I was thinking about. So is there any other goods or services that the city bases their fees on, like so that they don't cost them business, I guess, like compete? Is there any other services that we offer that we are concerned about that sort of thing?
No, honestly, this is new as far as just in general. This is uncharted territory for me personally, as far as something like this. And I've not seen something like this to where somebody down the road is offering the same service. It's just not something I've seen.
Yeah, that's true. Okay,
Community center, there's one.
yeah, and he just mentioned the office leasing.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I'm fine with what the PUD is suggesting, seems reasonable and they seem to know what they're doing there, so. And I'm fine with the overnight, that makes sense. I wouldn't want to have to wait all day for my car.
But doesn't the office lease has to be at
Market rate.
market rate?
Correct.
Yeah, or we're gifting
So
public
the
funds. And
community
so
center too.
Which is,
Yeah.
my question would be to Ridgefield, to C-Tran and to whomever else. I am the last guy on this earth that will give free electricity to people who can buy $75,000 a year cars. If you can come up with 75 grand for the car, then you can come up with 29 cents a kilowatt hour. If you can't, buy a gas car. So I would suggest that we set the rate. I will ask if there's a second. I will make a motion that we set the rate at 29 cents an hour to begin with overnight being from 10 PM to 6 AM. And I say that only if someone were to come to the hotel, as an example. They could come, put their car here overnight, walk back down to the hotel, come back and get their car the following morning. So that would give the hotel an opportunity to also say, now, there is an electric charger system inside the city. So,
Mr. Mayor.
yes, sir.
Is it possible, if I may ask, if you split those two?
Let's start with the first one, the easy one, I think first. From 2,200 to 0,600, offering overnight charging. We would have to change.
We have to update our.
We'd have to update, but there are, as I walk through here in the early morning hours, as you know I do, there are people who park in our lot overnight. And so we would have to change the code.
Yeah, we have a resolution that dictates parking within the city, so we'll have to update that and then we'll have to order signage accordingly.
So it would require that. So is there a second from 10 o'clock in the evening till 6 o'clock, allowing those to be used?
Was it just 24 hours?
Yeah, it'd be 24 hours.
So we're
Well,
adding in that.
The fine would run, they're talking about the $5 an hour fine would run from 0601 to 959.
Okay, but what you're asking for is that people can park there for 24 hours.
What he's asking is to waive the $5 an hour charge from 10
Right.
PM till 6 AM.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's not what I was understanding. So,
So currently they pay by the kilowatt hour. If
Okay, I
they are
got-
over, is it?
I
billed
got
2
that
hours
part. I'm
more?
talking about the hours that it's accessible to people.
It's open at any point.
So 24 hours currently. So
Yes.
What you're wanting to do, okay, that was confusing. So what you're wanting to do is to waive the $5 fee.
From 10 o'clock in the evening till 6 o'clock in the morning.
Okay,
Why wouldn't you just waive it in general? Because if you got to sit there all night and charge your car and you're in town, you got a dead car, you're gonna sit there
Because you
8
would,
hours to charge it during the day.
you would have hogs sit there. And those would be folks that charge the car and then head off on the bus to Vancouver to go to the mall or whatever. And the car gets charged at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They don't show back up till 5. Letting that spot is then taken. It becomes a parking spot rather than a charging spot.
But you think they would take that over just parking in the parking lot? Because they can park in the parking
They're
lot
getting charged.
during the middle of the day and no one's gonna enforce it, right? If they park in front of the,
It becomes their personal charging port if you don't have
If
the
you don't
fee,
have-
because they will go on short trips, come back, put it there, go on short trips, come back, put it there.
If you don't have the stick, then the carrot does very little good.
But although I see that as less of an issue here, I mean, other than maybe the
Yeah,
people that
but-
live close, but
yeah, I mean, me personally, I think we don't even look at that until we find out it's an issue. That, we're gonna set something that may not even be an issue right off the bat and just leave it at
Well,
leave it where we're at.
then we'll come back to that. Let's finish from 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock, authorizing someone to charge overnight. Is there a second for that?
second.
Thank you, sir. Is there any further discussion?
Point of clarification.
Yes, sir, please.
If we do this, what are the secondary effects this might have citywide? Will, if any? in terms of-
So if you guys approve this motion, we would bring forth the resolution to update the parking allowance within City Hall. Now, we could write that to only allow at certain spaces or City Hall in general. I mean, that's up to council discretion as well.
Yeah, if we can narrow it.
To
I would-
charging station.
yeah,
To
I
the,
would
to
be
the
in
charging
support of
station.
that.
Yeah, that's what
As long
I
as it
had
doesn't
thought
have
we
a
were,
Broad impact.
I thought that's what we were,
But it's only the fee, right? So,
oh, sweet mother.
no, that's what, why are you saying so broadly? We're just talking about the $5 fee per hour, right?
You would be waiving the $5
I know,
fee
but-
and you would also be
And-
allowing
And
overnight parking.
allowing them to park here overnight. Currently, you can't park here overnight.
Okay.
So yes, you were correct. We're waiving the fee from 10 to 6 and allowing them to park overnight. There's a second on the floor. There's questions asked. Are there any further questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing one. Okay, there's that. Moving on to the cost of this. The city has said that 15 cents an hour to start. I would make a motion that we go to 29 cents an hour, puts us at the lower end of the market and recoups our money faster. Which is not our money. It recoups the people's money faster. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Thank you, sir. Is there any discussion?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I mean, not that I don't agree with you, you have an electric car, so I would love to see what the market rate is before we set a rate. If 29 is the low end of the market, are we still? I mean, to me, it's not to be at the low end of the market because you're still in the same boat if the guy down the street puts it in and he has to be at 35 because he isn't using government money to do so. So I'd love to see where the market is before we set a rate.
But we were just told the very people that provide electricity to all of Clark County just stated that 15 cents is.
No, that's what the PUD charges is 15 cents.
I know, but they provide electricity to all of us.
But that isn't the private market. That isn't
There's not-
private
there's not
sector.
Another electricity provider to Clark County.
But they're subsidizing the electricity for that station. Just like C-Tran gives it away. So they're subsidizing. They're subsidizing the electric for that station. Different than and just like us.
C-Train gives it away, but it's at their own cost. It's not at Park PUD's cost.
I'll just clarify that the 15 cents that Clark PUD is charging, they do pay themselves back. They operate at the same as they do with their other utility at a zero. They just are able to get
So basically, that's
Their CPU.
a market rate then, if they're paying.
for
themselves back.
themselves,
Yeah.
yes,
For
or
themselves.
CPU.
But what's the market, what is the private sector market? What is it going for? Because that's what we're talking about here.
29 to 49,
So 29 to 49?
29 to 49 across Multnomah County and Clark County. We would be the only one, we would be the market north of Orchards and east of Salmon Creek.
So what is it costing in Orchards, do you know?
It costs in Orchards roughly 39.
39?
Yes.
So I think we should, I think we should be somewhere in between that, not the low end. I think we should be right in the middle of that.
There's also the building demand portion of
Exactly. Of
thought process.
the Field of Dreams kind of deal. So that's why I would start at the lower end. And again, if you can afford a $75,000 car, if the rate were to go to 35 cents or 39 cents down the road, those people, they don't complain.
But don't they have their own chargers? Just kidding.
They may.
But isn't this all just until? I mean, we can't make a profit, so if we do 29 cents. We pay off and then we go back down because we can't make a.
Or
profit.
we-
It's either now or later,
You
right?
can get a utility.
Or we build another, or we build another.
So maybe we should ask that question first, because I think it's kind of
To
chicken
whom?
before the egg to you. As if you want this to be a utility and want to do this as a utility and have the system reinvestment and make this. Just like our other utilities to where it's more,
It's obvious what Olympia is going, where Olympia is going. And it's pretty obvious where DC's going. And so at some point, we're going to have to go to electrification.
If I may. Mr.
Yes, sir,
Mayor.
you may.
I mean, if we're gonna ask the question on whether we want to become a utility with these. I think it's worthwhile asking staff to gather more information and give us a presentation on what constitutes as a utility, what could that look like? And then go from there, and then perhaps we'll have more information to base our decision on.
And then set,
'Cause I guess-
set your rates.
Yeah, I have no idea what it means to be a utility.
Well, I would. Is that something we have to decide before we set the rate? Because the longer we fail to set a rate, the longer that sits there unused and costs go. So I'm not really in favor of waiting to set a rate. I'm not against the utility and I agree with Councilmember Cortez. I'd love to hear more about it. But is setting the rate today preclude getting a
Down
utility?
the
Because
road.
until your revenue exceeds your expenses on that, you don't have to make that decision, correct?
we would just need to make that decision before the end of the year so I can appropriately put the assets where they need to go.
Okay,
It makes
that's
things
what I
a
did.
little bit easier in my accounting world. So that's why I'm asking that question. It sounds like that's what I'm hearing. So I'm more than happy to do a presentation with that information. I mean, it's just gonna be just like your water, sewer and storm drainage. This was presented as, and based on what I had heard before from what was presented by Mr. Ferrier, that this was more of a cost neutral. This wasn't going to be an expansion. This was just fees. And so it wasn't going to be something bigger than that. But it sounds like that's the desire. And as you said, that seems to be where things are going. So we can absolutely do that.
So
Yes, ma'am.
I just have one more
Please.
question, believe it
Please,
or not.
not a worry.
So if we did do this, similar to like what we're talking about with the community center and the leasing of the buildings, would we have to look at market rates on this thing, or is this excluded from that where we have to charge market rate?
So when it comes to the community center and even with our market rate here, we don't get into the profit situation just because of the operational costs of the community center as well as City Hall. So we don't have to worry about looking at that there. We can absolutely look at market rate. It's not a requirement. Typically, when you do a rate study, you look at your infrastructure, you look at the operational costs, you do projections, you try to estimate usage. That's going to be the hard part here because we don't have that. So it'll be, again, like we talked about in the beginning, we'll have to look at this to make sure that we're meeting our revenue projections or even being able to come up with those revenue projections once we get some actual usage going. So I don't disagree with what Mr. McCoy said, of setting the rate now, and then we can modify and make it a utility once you guys get that presentation and have that discussion.
So, again, on the floor, been seconded, 29 cents a kilowatt hour to start. And then at that point, we could, in 3 months, come back, see what the usage is with the secondary meter that's going to be installed so that we know what the usage has been. And at that point, the city should be ready at that point to let us know moving forward if we decided to grow this thing, what it would take. Is that, have I got it down
Yeah,
pretty
I
much?
just want to clarify that your motion on the table would be to amend the resolution 2304 as presented to change the rate to 29 cents because there are other fees on there. So I just want to make sure that those are incorporated within your motion.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Any other questions? All those in favor of modifying the resolution, just so I have that right, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed.
No.
No.
So there are 6 of us here. I heard 2 no's.
4-2.
4-2. So the new rate will be 29 cents. Anything else about the apparatus?
So we're setting the rate at 29 cents per kilowatt hour. We will bring back a presentation based on utility funds and then hopefully make a decision regarding that before 2024.
Perfect. Thank you.
And in that presentation, if we could find out, is it, and maybe you could tell me this right now, is it eligible for utility tax?
It's a great question. We've been trying to get a hold of the Department of Revenue for a good month to talk about what we do for their excise tax. And as far as our own, I do not believe it would apply for the electric because it's not. It's a good question.
Okay, perfect then.
Don't pay them, they'll call you.
She'll have that figured
You don't have
out.
to get a hold of them.
She'll have that figured out. Moving on to now, resolution number 23-05, the filing of the council vacancy. Ms. Erdman, we're at your time.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. As you all are aware, Ms. Walters has vacated council position number 3. So in front of you is resolution number 23-05. And this is basically a resolution setting forth the process for filling that council vacancy as we will be deviating from what is prescribed in our governance manual. The reason for that is we have transferred around some meetings in June based on our traveling for AWC conference and so forth. So to meet the strict deadlines, the way they are written in the governance manual deemed almost impossible. So by adopting this resolution tonight, you're basically setting the schedule. With that, you would convene a special meeting on June 12th at 5:30 to have an executive session to review the applications at that time and set some interview questions. You would come back to a regular council meeting, make your selections on who you would like to bring forth for interviews. Interviews would be conducted on June 15th. And then at that time, you have the option to go into executive session, deliberate, and come back and make your motions on a potential candidate and seat them that evening if that is the way it works out. So by adopting this resolution, you're adopting that process and it basically waives the current process in the governance manual. I'll turn it
Thank
over to you.
Any questions of Ms. Erdman?
Pretty straightforward.
It is straightforward. Seeing none, is there a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 23-05, filling the council vacancy as presented.
Second.
Thank you both. Any other questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Moving on. Administrative reports. Ms. Erdman.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. The one thing I have tonight is at the last meeting, you gave permission to move forward with ordering the season's greeting sign as long as it was $8,000 or less. Ms. Cedarholm was able to get quotes and that came in at $9,150. So I wanted to bring that forward as it was not approved at that amount of money to get consensus and see how council would like to move forward. We do have permission from both property owners on both sides of the street, Main Street, to place the banner poles. So back farther off of the main intersection. Mr. Herseg did reach out to PUD just to make sure that spacing wise, we were okay with the current existing power lines and that shouldn't have any interference as long as we have a lineman willing to place the greeting sign, which they currently do that for us at the time. So we are just looking to see how council would like to move forward or not move forward with the purchasing of the season's greeting signs.
I would make a motion at this point that we increase the dollar to 9,500 just in case there's something that comes along.
Second.
And at that point, we can wrap this baby up as it's Christmas and get it moving forward.
I'm just making it even 10,000.
Yeah.
Or
The
just give
motion
us
on the floor is an
permission to
even
purchase.
10 grand.
Yeah.
Is there a second for 10 grand?
So don't use it if you don't have to.
Okay, and then is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none as well.
Right, so we will be coming back with the future budget amendment to amend, to bring that money forward. And we will start the process for ordering the banner.
Wonderful. Thank you. Anything else?
Just a reminder that we have announced the cancellation for the June 20th meeting. As council will be in attendance at the AWC, so that meeting has been changed to June 15th. And that we will also be having the special meeting on June 12th, starting at 5:30 with an executive session and a regular council meeting at 6 p.m.
Mr. Mayor. Do we need a motion for the July 3rd meeting?
If you would like to.
I would like to
change
move
that
that
schedule.
we not have a meeting on July 3rd. There's very little business and with people traveling and for transparency, I think having meetings when nobody's home is not the best course of action.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor for the July 3rd meeting not happening. And have I got that wrapped up pretty nicely? And there is a second by Mr. Cortez. Are there any questions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Is about July 3rd?
No,
Oh.
I was still back
Too
to
late for that.
Yeah.
the special meeting with the applicants.
June 12th.
Are the applicants going to be in person or anything?
So the meeting on June 12th will be for council to review all the applications and make decisions on who you would like to bring forward for interviews. Then we will bring the applicants here on June 15th for the interviews.
Okay, for our actual.
So,
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, Monday's the work session, Thursday's the,
Okay.
That's correct.
the actual deal.
And we will reach out to all of the applicants now that we've set the resolution and have the schedule and let them know they need to be available on the 15th. And we'll, obviously, the application period is open until 4 o'clock on the 12th. So there may be some last minute applications that you haven't had a chance to review prior to that meeting.
How many have we received so far?
We are up to 4 as of this afternoon.
With that one that just came through?
Anything else?
No.
Any council communications? Are there any?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like Aaron to provide us some guidance with the proclamation that came up and we had some citizens question it. Maybe review, come back for interpretations of section 21 and how we go about citing proclamations. And just moving forward for a little bit more clarity. So if that's possible, I would like to have some guidance on that.
Proclamations are at the mayor's pleasure. And so that's up to the mayor.
But there's also another statement in there that if it is controversial, it goes to a 2/3 vote on the council. And so I just also, if it's brought up, I think that council should, even though it's not the final decision, I think they should be able to say put their input into something on that because it represents the council. So if it represents us, put it to a 2/3 vote. If you're voted down, you're voted down.
So are you saying you were against tonight's proclamation?
I was.
Then why didn't you say anything?
During the agenda is what you should have taken it off the agenda.
You said nothing.
It should have come under the agenda approval, asked to be removed.
Remove it from the
Okay,
agenda.
so in the future, what is the
No,
problem?
because what you're doing right now is you're engaging in politics, okay?
No, sir, I'm not.
Yes, you are, because you had a chance to voice your opinion and you didn't.
I'm sorry, it happened really fast when it started.
You
but
had the
in
agenda. You
I
had the
have every
advanced
right to
agenda.
ask. Excuse me, but I think I have every right to ask for a little bit clarification on number 21, where it does say a 2/3 vote, then it should be a 2/3 vote.
No, it's quite evident that the emails
And it
we've been
says-
receiving have been organized. And
And
so I'll leave it
is
at that.
from the- It is from the city.
They
and
were-
it says
they use-
controversial
They use
religious-
generic templates
They
to send
quoted
out.
it, by the way,
No,
and
they
it
used
says
a template to send the
controversial.
emails out. They weren't even original.
I have asked the city manager as a council member to please provide some clarification and
The city
interpretation.
manager doesn't follow the direction of one council.
Just a moment, please. The city manager will not be doing that because as an employee of ours, we will take that to the governance board. And we will go from there. We will not be asking the city manager to do that.
Yeah, I
We-
was just gonna say my suggestion would be to bring the governance manual forward for council to discuss further and look at that section to see
That's
if we would
correct.
like to make any changes.
You're more than welcome to.
So I just wanted to say in regards to the proclamation this evening that I believe that all lives matter. So I appreciated the proclamation representing a disenfranchised group that has been discriminated against throughout history. I want people to know that they are welcome in our community and that they can be safe, happy, and be prosperous here in our community. So thank you.
On 15th of June, Thursday, please lay that in there if you will.
You'd like to add the governance?
Oh,
manual?
yes, let's
Okay.
get that out of the way. And at that point, as a previous mayor, I, as Mr. Bowman did as well, Mr. Cortez did as well. Anything asked of me or the other two gentlemen at any time from any council member has always been agreed to. If you wish to bring something up, we have never stepped in anyone's path. And so let's get this out of the way, get this squared away, and we'll, on June 15th, we'll take care of this. Yes, sir, you may.
What are we taking care of?
Ms. Cameron, is it, we
Of
haven't
looking at the
published
governance
that
manual to-
June
to
15th
sort
meeting
it
yet,
out.
correctly? Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. So even if it, I mean, I don't know that we need to look at it because even if it does, which it does, say 2/3 vote, a controversial subject needs to be brought up. And if you don't bring it up, then there's no 2/3 vote. So the mayor has the power of proclamation. We get our agendas almost a week in advance that shows what is on there. In our bi-weekly meetings, we get future agenda items, which those are on there. And so it shouldn't be a shock to us to see what's on an agenda when we show up at the meeting that night. And if we don't like it, then we bring it up in the approval of the agenda, which tonight was a 6-0 vote. At that time, Ms. Davis, that would be the appropriate time. By voting no on that, then we can look at what is the issue for why don't you approve the agenda? What do you want? And then you could make a motion at that time that I don't approve of the proclamation that's going to be read and make a motion to not read it. And then the 2/3 vote would come into play at that time. But that's one of there's very few things that in our form of government that the mayor can do that's different than the council. One is proclamation. And one is to control the agenda. But there is ways around both of those if we as a council don't like either one of those and how we address that. The agenda item would be to bring it up in a meeting and ask for a vote. If a mayor or a city manager is holding us from putting something on the agenda, and it should be the same for anything that we see on the agenda that we don't like. Bring it up, and then we'll follow the governance manual, and I think it's as simple as that. It would have required a 2/3 vote, which would especially with one missing on council is tougher. But that's where it should have happened, and maybe for us, that's where, you know, we can do some more training on when and where and how we do that if we don't want something. But you can also bring it up to the mayor and council before the meetings too, and send out an email to, I think it's appropriate to send out an email to all of council and say, hey, this is how I feel on this. And this is why, you know, why I feel this way. And, you know, sometimes that can be done before you even come into a meeting. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I was just gonna say that in regards to the section that we're quoting about religion and controversy, that I don't think human rights is a controversy. This wasn't religious material. I don't think that applies to going against someone's religion. Is that where the question is?
But it's still, if someone takes offense to it and feels offended by it, they still have the ability to, whether we feel that way or not, they still have the ability to bring it up and then see if they have the votes to say, yeah, we don't agree with this. Because what I find offensive, you know, or not offensive may, you know, the mayor may find very offensive. And so you just don't know. And so that's why you bring it up and you ask for a vote and you ask people to state where they're at on it.
On June
And I would-
15th.
Yes,
on-
and
on
I-
Ju- Yes, ma'am. Ms. Davis has asked. I have agreed with her that we will bring this up. We will speak about it. And at that point, we will sort it out.
I've also sent an email just now to our attorneys too, to ask for just some interpretation on that section, because I think it is subject to interpretation a bit, and then we'll bring it back for discussion.
And we're just bringing back that section of the governance.
Yeah, we're not.
No.
No, we're looking at the governance manual strictly. Okey doke. Anyone else? Hearing no one else. Again, I will say we're meeting on June 12th, 5:30. And then again on the 15th is there a 6 o'clock meeting on the 15th?
I don't believe so. Let me double check here really fast.
No,
It's not
Ms. Cameron.
happening. There
Oh.
there is no study session on the 15th at this.
So we will
So
be meeting at
7
7 o'clock on the 15th.
Yep.
See you Monday.